Hello everybody and welcome to another video. So the other day on stream I decided to play Armored Core 2 as I'm keenly anticipating the latest entry in the franchise, Armored Core 6, which releases later this month. And this video is a little bit of a follow-up to that stream. Personally, I didn't feel like the stream went as well as it could in terms of getting the game across, in terms of me being able to play the game and not selling it, but sort of conveying it to the audience as such. I didn't really feel like I was able to scratch the surface of what this game had to offer. Yes, I was able to complete a handful of missions, but I didn't really get a good feeling for the game. I didn't really fully grasp what was going on, and it didn't seem like the stream was a suitable environment for me learning how to play the game and sort of enjoy it. So I wanted to make this video to talk about Armored Core 2 just a little bit more, maybe, document my process of learning more about it. This as a video isn't too dissimilar to what I do with the games I've wanted to play format, except we're only going to be looking at the first couple of hours of the game here. It's sort of more of a, I tried this, rather than me playing through the full thing. Now, for those of you who aren't in the stream and might be unaware of this game and series, what exactly is Armored Core 2? So, to put it simply, it's a mech game. It was created by From Software, and despite the name, it's actually the fourth one in the series. Now, from what I understand, Armored Core series seems to work with a numbered one coming out to start a particular timeline or series of games, and then the subsequent releases will have a subtitle. And eventually a new numbered one will come out, and that will start a fresh sequence. So the original Armored Core had 3 games within it. Armored Core 2 has just the 2 games in it. Armored Core 3 seems to have about 6 before we got to Armored Core 4, and so on. You kind of get the idea. And the concept of these games is fairly simple. You are a mech pilot employed by a mercenary organisation. In this one, you're based on Mars, and you take on contracts for any number of these organisations, also with their own vested interests in owning and exploiting what Mars has to offer. You'll take on these missions, earn yourself a little bit of money from them, use that money to buy upgrades for your mech, to build it up as you see fit, and also included in your career is this arena mode where you have a sequence of one-on-one fights with the aim being to be the #1 pilot. It's a very simple concept, and for someone like me who absolutely loves mecha stuff, it's incredibly appealing. So let's see how I got on in this attempt. We start the game by entering our pilot's name, and we're put into the first little mission the game has to offer. Destroy a number of enemies in this big tunnel. The first thing I really noticed, and this is what I noticed on stream as well, is that the game doesn't control quite as smoothly as I'd have hoped. It feels very clunky, very tanky, and part of this, I've learnt since, is because the mech I'm in is quite a basic one, but it's also just due to the age and control scheme of the game. I'd take a little bit of time this go around to get used to how it all feels before actually moving forward and trying to take on my enemies. The controls are kind of intuitive, but they are let down by the fact that it doesn't make use of the dual analog for controlling the camera. You use your D-pad and left analog stick for movement, and bizarrely L2 and R2 are move your camera up and down. You are able to remap the controls, but obviously the option isn't there to put camera movement on the right analog stick, so you are going to be hindered by that. We get through the first mission without any major issue. This is, again, because I've got that little bit of experience from playing it on stream, I sort of know what to expect, so I can prepare for it, but because I'm not doing this for an audience, I can take a little bit more time to get used to things and, handle that mech a little bit better. The one thing I do like, and it will take some time for anyone to get used to, is that you actually do feel the weight of the mech. Like I mentioned, it feels clunky and tanky, but that's also because you're really feeling the weight of this machine you are piloting. Perhaps it's not quite as arcadey as I would have expected. One big example is that if you're boosting forward and let go, the mech will come to a really sudden stop for a few moments, and it'll take some time for you to restart it and get back into that momentum, as opposed to some games I've played where you can just zip around and you can chain boosting. There is no sort of like momentum halting. It's neat in one way, but it does take some getting used to if you are expecting a faster experience. And like I say, when I streamed it, this caught me out quite a lot. Now, when I'm done with the mission, you're taken back to your main hub menu. You see various options on display. You've got a menu for anything to do with assembling and customizing your mech. This can range from equipping various parts that you've acquired throughout the missions or from buying in the shop, to changing the colour of your mech, the name of it, and even renaming yourself. And that, of course, ties into the shop itself, which has dozens, perhaps a couple of hundred parts to purchase that you can upgrade your mech with. Now, if there's one word I could use to sum up the shop and assembling your mech, it would probably be overwhelming. There's a lot of choice here. You can change pretty much all aspects of your machine. You can swap out the legs for different options ranging from two-legged, quadrupeds, tank tracks, hovering, large variety of weapons. You got, standard rifles, snipers, machine guns, rockets, that sort of thing. You got optional parts you can equip that enhance your turn speed, radar capabilities, can reduce the damage. It's really incredible the amount of options you have, but also, as I said, a little bit overwhelming. And because the game doesn't necessarily set you down a particular path or tell you, what is a good option to go for, you can kind of find yourself a little bit stuck thinking, oh, what should I actually go for in this? Now, at the start of the game, didn't have a lot of credit, so I thought it'd be best just to hop into another mission and maybe worry about upgrades later. Get through the mission, get my payment, and something to note about the payment in this, and this is something I noted in the stream, is that your payment at the end of the mission is rarely going to be the promised payment. The more damage you take and the more ammunition you use go towards repair costs and, buying more ammunition. So you can see that promised payment reduced by a significant number. As far as the second mission went, didn't go too badly. I kind of remembered most of it from my attempt to stream it, so I knew where the enemies would be. I knew a good tactic to fight in them at this point. And aside from nearly running out of ammo, I think it went fine and I actually got a decent payout. Now I have enough credits to upgrade my generator after the mission, so I've kind of realised at this point with the game relying on you boosting quite a bit, being a little bit fast-paced, I want something to allow me to boost that a little bit more, so I feel like a generator is a good option. Third mission went quite smoothly as well. It was a very simple mission to destroy a singular vehicle with a marked informer in it. I'm sure Snow would be very proud. And for this mission, I decided it would be prudent to just go straight for the vehicle, destroy it as quickly as I could, and ignore any enemies. Really worked out for me. Minimal repair costs, minimal ammo restock costs, more money for me and more opportunities to upgrade, so I got myself some new legs. And now I get to the fourth mission. This is one that I did play on stream and caused me a little bit of frustration. It had... I was able to complete it on the stream, but not without some difficulty. But this time round, I really, really struggled. In fact, it takes me about 3 attempts. I'm still unable to do it. So one thing I should maybe explain about the mission selection in the game. What you do in the game, if you're selecting missions, might vary to mine. It's not necessarily linear. So for me, the third mission was one called Defend the Bridge, where you encounter several enemies on some bridge-like structures above a huge pool of lava. The units that you're fighting are fitted with machine guns, which wouldn't normally be a problem, but if you don't start moving immediately after the mission begins and you start to get hit by fire from these machine guns, it stun locks you. So you're locked in place, you can't move, you can't dodge out the way. But you've got multiple enemies firing at you, so it's very, very easy to get caught in an endless stun lock cycle, unable to really move or do anything beyond wait for death. So if you die in the game, the penalty isn't a game over, it's just you lose the amount of money it costs you to repair your mech, pay for any ammunition you've used up that point. So any money I'd built up at that point for those 3 attempts was completely gone, and because I kept failing, I was left in significant debt. It was here I kind of learnt another feature of Armored Core 2, really. There isn't like I mentioned, a game over state as such. Instead, if you go far enough in debt, around 50,000 credits or so, the game does a sort of soft reset. Instead of starting you back at the beginning, which it does do, you go into what's called a Human Plus mode, where your character is given an upgrade of sorts. It can vary depending on how many times you've gone through this cycle. And you start the game over with your mech with all the upgrades previously. So you're not really punished too much, it's just a little bit frustrating. This happened to me. I got my upgrade, it was a radar upgrade, I kept my mech, restarted with what I had. And that allowed me to get through those opening few missions with very minimal problems, and eventually purchased myself a new booster and a new weapons upgrade. It was a machine gun capable of holding 1,000 bullets. And eventually I got back to that bridge level, and because I had died to it so many times previously, I sort of knew what to do almost immediately, and because I had the better weapons and equipment, I was able to absolutely demolish it. I barely took any damage. I did use a lot of ammo, but the costs for that were minimal compared to, taking damage, and it left me feeling quite good about the situation. The same went for the next two missions. It really felt like me sitting down and actually dedicating time to study the menus, to read through them, to, like I say, take my time with it, slow down with it, really paid off. This game was starting to click into place. I was even able to tackle the mission that I failed at the end of my stream the other day with very minimal difficulty. And that's kind of where I felt it was a good place to leave it for the day and report back with how I felt about the game. In conclusion, I'm really glad I gave Armored Core 2 a second chance. Being able to sit down on my own terms, look at the advice regarding the game, spend a little bit more time with it without worrying about engaging with an audience was really beneficial, and it helped me appreciate it just that little bit more. I do think it's one of them games that rewards perseverance and experimentation, but there is also an expectation that you are going to fail and mess up. I personally don't always deal with failure that well, and sometimes the idea of having too many options in a game can be very overwhelming to me. I kind of like that little bit of guidance rather than total freedom. It's why I do so well with the modern Hitman games as opposed to the original ones. And what also doesn't help with this game in particular is, according to the research I did after finishing the stream, this one is supposed to have one of the hardest starts in the franchise, so going in blind like I did not help. Perhaps another thing that didn't help is because I got the game second hand, it did not come with an instruction manual, so I should maybe have done that little bit more research on the controls before just jumping in for a stream. And I think for a lot of people here, maybe the biggest hurdle would be the aforementioned controls. That lack of camera control on the right analog stick really hurts it. I'm not used to the camera pitch being on L2R2. I don't know how long it will take me to get fully used to that. I think I'm going to have to dedicate a lot more time to playing it. And beyond that, the way the mechs handle in general could maybe take a little bit of getting used to. It does sound obvious, but you are not controlling a human here. You're controlling this massive construct made to fight. And the game does its best to convey your mech's weight and feel to you. You are encouraged to use the boost to manoeuvre around quite a lot, but there is a weightiness to it, and getting used to that is going to take time. And many times I find myself boosting just that little bit too much and having to recharge at the slower speeds, or because I wasn't chaining boosts together properly, I would drop speed, lose all momentum, and it can be punishing if you are surrounded by enemies. Still, the game is very rewarding. It's not untypical of what you might expect from a modern FromSoft title. You're going to fail, but you're going to learn. You just have to put in that time and, like I say, persevere. I don't necessarily think this is a game for everyone. It's aged considerably, and with the new title coming soon, I'm sure it's going to feel very archaic in comparison. But for me, it's always interesting to go back to the previous and revered games in these sorts of series and see how things used to be done and chart that evolution. I would absolutely recommend giving it a go, and I will be returning to it while I'm waiting for 6 to come out. So with all of that said, I just want to thank everyone for taking the time to watch this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I'm hopefully planning on doing more shorter reviews like this in the future, so do let me know what you thought in the comments below. And of course, do give the video a like and the channel a subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you again in a future video. Goodbye.